Hi, I'm Jeffrey Pickett, and on this episode of Stoughton Conversations, we'll be having a conversation about some of the current topics and issues surrounding the town of Stoughton. And on this episode, I'm joined by former Selectman John Stagnone and current Selectman David Spanky Sousa. So, gentlemen, thank you for joining.
Thanks for having us.
And actually, let me explain how this kind of all came to be. A Facebook post on a group called Stoughton News, which is run by Mark Snyder, about the Board of Selectmen meeting on, I believe it was March 1st, talked about how the police patrolman unions and superior officers union and also the Stoughton Fire Department gave votes of no confidence in the town manager, Michael Hartman. And on that Facebook post, John, who is here, commented, and I just want to read your comment, and then I'm going to read David's comment to kind of give just a little bit of a background into how this conversation came to be. Let's see. You said to Mark that last night, like many other nights, Vice Chair complains about not knowing what was happening with the fire chief position, only to be reminded that this has been in the January and February town manager reports. Members of the board need to read what is given, maybe the town manager, and I'm reading out the abbreviation, it says TM, so town manager needs to hold story hour for some of the members. Seems to me two members are not happy that they cannot micromanage the town manager and take care of their family and friends. The chair and vice chair should be recalled for their actions and incompetency. On a long chain of comments to John's comment, David Sousa replies that, John, this is Spanky Sousa. I would like to meet you on Smack on TV so we can compare our differences and let the people know the truth. So you name the time you want me at Smack. I'll show up, and I'll show up with the people. I'll show up with the people so you could hear the truth about me. Thank you. So that's how we end up here today with John and David here to discuss. So I just want to.
I know I'm in trouble when you call me David, Jeff.
So I just want to discuss, we'll start the show off by your assessment of the current situation that's going on right now in town. We're well aware that the police chief has resigned. Even though his last day is technically in the end of April, his actual last day was this past Friday as of taping, so that's March 4th. And so he's no longer the chief of police, for Stoughton, in terms of the day-to-day operations of the chief. And so we know that there's been battles with the town manager, and we know kind of where that stands. So again, I just wanted to get each of your thoughts as to where this issue stands right now. And I'll start with you, David.
Well, first of all, thanks for John showing up, because like I says, if I'm going to get recalled, I want to know why I'm getting recalled. So that's the biggest thing. But the day-to-day operations, even though the chief is not here, the Board of Selectmen gave him the opportunity to use his vacation time, his personal time, and his sick time. He chose to take the time instead of us paying him for all his time. He figured there would be retribution against him from the town manager, so he asked if he could take his time with him and take it right away. As of him not being the chief still, he still is the chief active until April 29th, 2016. He's not there for the day-to-day operations, but he's in phone contact with them, email contact with them all the time. He has appointed Lieutenant Donna McNamara for the acting chief position out of his absence, like he does when he goes out of town or somewhere else, because we don't have a deputy chief or anything else. But he is still the chief of our police department, and until the 29th, he will still be the chief. So no disrespect to Lieutenant McNamara or anything else, but she's the acting until the Board of Selectmen makes that final decision. Hopefully, like it says, the Board of Selectmen did not accept his resignation. If some changes can happen with the town side and the Board of Selectmen, maybe he will change his vote and stay as our chief, but that's a story for another day.
Well, again, the the question being though, what your take on, we know you made a motion at the last selectmen's meeting to dismiss the town manager.
Yes, I did.
And that motion wasn't acted upon. So explain the reason behind making that motion.
Oh, like I says, I ran, if I knew what I knew today, I wouldn't have run for selectman. And John's in the same seat I was in before. He knows what it's like. I glimpsed at a lot of things. Do I read everything? No, I do not read everything. But I'm not here to run the day-to-day operations. I do believe in a strong manager. But now we've had a new fire department, fire chief. We're looking for a new fire chief. I like to know, hey, a couple names. I know, because we're not doing the hiring procedure, but who are their names? Where are they from? What are their backgrounds? So when the residents come up to us, hey, I heard there's a couple, fire chiefs or 3 or 4 people, or 8 people. Who are they? Where they coming? Well, I don't know the name, but I know one's from, Boston, one's from Canton, one's from New Hampshire, one's from Wisconsin. On a case like that, how many people internally apply for that position? We don't get that. If anybody applied internally, did they get an interview? We don't know that. These people that they interviewed for a job, I heard the other day there was 2 people given a position. One person says what's going on with the town, he doesn't want this job, he went to Chelsea. The second person, I guess, who applied, they gave it to him. They said, you want the job? He said, no, what's going on with the town, he's going to Connecticut. Is that true? I don't know, allegedly, but that's what I'm hearing. That's 2 people that was offered the position of fire chief did not take it because of what's going on with this town manager. In the past, when we first got on, he told employees not to talk to any members of the Board of Selectmen. We represent the people, we represent the businesses, and we represent our employees. And if we can't do this, then maybe it's like John's got a point. Not just recall me, but recall the whole entire board and maybe some of the administrations. That's my opinion, Jeff.
Well, John, just wanted to, same question to you. I want to be able to get your take on what's going on right now at Town Hall, the apparent division between some members of the Board of Selectmen and the town manager, and the situation with the police chief that, ultimately forced him to leave.
Excuse me.
Okay. Well, it's just to follow up on a couple of things that David said. The police chief is still the chief, but we're paying him, whether it's sick time and things. The town's still paying him. It's not like the money is he's already is just out there. It's still the town's paying him. It's the same as his salary. Police chief is a 24-hour day job, so even if he's on vacation, he's not on vacation. So just to clarify that. As far as the town manager thing that's going on, from what I've seen since David and Joe have come on the board, to me the appearance is that they've had nothing but just to get out and try to get the gentleman and make them look bad during their meetings, and even out of the meetings. It's been pretty tough to watch some of the meetings because it's always seems that they want to do I gotcha. And last Tuesday the fire chief one is kind of one of those where David did say that he didn't know about the chiefs. And it was in the reports. I have the town manager's reports here that, there's quite a few of them. A lot of them are 20 pages long. Anybody that wants to know anything about what's going on in town can, finds out in the town manager's report. And then if you want to go back into it a little bit further, and I don't know if it's as soon as Joe came on or whatever, but we always
We're
had
talking,
the town.
just for in case people aren't familiar, you're talking about Joe McCrisky, the current chairman of the Selectmen.
Correct, Joe McCrisky. So when he became chair, I don't know if it was after that before he came chair or after he came chair, but when I was the chairman of the board, we always had a town manager's report, and it was right at the very beginning of the meeting, and it hasn't been there until now. It's actually on the agenda for tomorrow night, but it's down under new and old business. To me, that just is a slap to the town manager and saying he's not as important as citizens' comments and everything else. I don't find that to be the appropriate place. You should have it at the top of the meeting and give it the priorities that it deserves. As far as David talking about not getting the names and things for fire chief candidates, that's always been the case for when you hire management and things. These people have jobs in towns. The problem that's always happened in a lot of communities, not just Stoughton, people get information and it gets out. And these people, like I said, have jobs. So it's always the practice when you're running for applying for these type of jobs that it's kept confidential and people don't know until the last candidate. And just to touch base on why people are not taking the position goes to why I said that both of these guys probably should be facing a recall, is because they went to social media and trumped up a whole bunch of things. They turned this, the police chief leaving against the town manager, into a popularity contest, from what is no better way of saying it. The town manager is a strong town manager. We didn't hire a politician. We didn't hire somebody to go out and kiss babies. We're not a mayor town. He's a town manager. So he is, that's the criticism Michael has taken for these things, but that's the difference between a real town manager who's a professional. So, to Michael's credit, he's taken a lot of heat for his making a decision on Lieutenant Devine's position, and he's taken it without going to the press and bad-mouthing anybody or anything like that, because that's the style that Michael does with anybody. Well, when it comes to personnel matters, he has taken a real personal prosecution in the press and from the board members for without knowing all the facts, or people don't want to know all the facts. They are going to come out, and that's what I like to do now, is read
just
some of these things.
Well, before, I mean, do you have any response?
I do.
David.
I do. Thank you, Jeff. First of all, John, you were in the chairman of the board at the time, or the board of selectmen, to find the town manager. There was 3 candidates. None of them were actually any good. He came with baggage from Wareham, and everybody knew it. He had to go out of the state because he could not find a job in the state. We had a town manager who was a town moderator. He was a selectman. He's an attorney. He was a judge, and now he ran his own courtroom. Now he's a town manager in another town. And I hate to say it, John, you are one of the special people. You guys want to change this town to a whole different level. You brought him in. You guys caused this problem because you can control. You guys, he does what you guys want, and he does what you guys want. You had an interim town manager, supposedly, allegedly a friend of you guys, who did not make the cut, but was told to be put on the cut. Like I says, I am not a town manager. I am not a mayor. I represent the residents, the businesses, and the people of this town. When I ask a question from an employee of the town hall, and they tell me, you're a nobody, you're just a selectman, or when he told the employees not to talk to any member of the board of selectmen, I have no problems with him being a town manager. And do I think he's an intelligent man? Yes, he is. But if he doesn't want to talk to the residents, he doesn't talk. He says he does, but he doesn't. He says he talks to the media, which he doesn't. He doesn't do none of this, John. And I says, in this position, like I says, we don't hire a guy to kiss baby. I understand that. But this town eats their young. You're older than me, you see how it's done. I've been here 48 years. 40 years, I see what's going on. We have a town manager and a human resource director that our employees are running afraid. We have 2 people out on stress leave. Now they're saying, oh, the chief is gone, we have more money to go to the schools. Listen, I'm all in favor for the school, but I'm not voting for the school because Mr. Harmon handpicked his people for this school committee, this building committee. So you special people, and I hate to say it, John, you are one of them again. You guys know who you are. You have yourself. You guys control the town meeting. You control the finance committee. You're on every single board, every single committee, the special people. There's about 2,000 of you, and you guys are like a giant circle, the circle of life. You keep switching from board to board, and if you can't make it, they use you as a guinea pig to come get me, or they use Jeff, or they use somebody else to come get me. I gotta say what, your strategies, how you guys, the special people, how you guys work, A+, A double plus. You guys are smart as hell. You guys are.
I've never been used to.
I'm just saying that,
Yeah,
Jeff. I'm just saying.
Right.
You guys, or even Michael, anybody, you guys know how to.
He hasn't either.
Man, no,
I know.
You guys know how to use your people and target them everywhere. So like I says, kudos to you. But you guys voted for Glen Echo that no one's ever going to use. No parking, no nothing. You bought McNamara Farms because they're not going to own anything. You, John, all disrespect, you got a cinema. Do I like the idea of the state cinema? Absolutely. But you're asking $550,000 of the taxpayers' money, which if it doesn't take off, or if you do get takes off, and if it takes off and someone sells the building, and now you put, say, $15 million into that building, and after your lease is up, the new landlord says, hey, we don't want you no more. We're going to give a landlord a new building. So, and these people who, from the CPC, some of the special people, have given you money for this theater. All due respect, if you make the theater and it's going to be non-profit. What are you paying yourself now? Is money being given? I know you just hired some new guy. Is he getting paid? Where's this money coming from? If you guys want to build a theater, all the power to you. If you make hundreds of millions of dollars, all the power to you. But you're asking the town to give $550,000 of our money, and what's the town going to get out of it? Nothing. The landlord makes out, all your employees make out, all your. So it's a non-profit is for your benefit and your special people. So
I think that there's a lot on John's plate right now to respond to. So, and I actually should, just in fairness, should have done this at the beginning of the show, just mention for disclosure that John is also the president of the Stoughton Media Access Board of Directors. Our chairman, and I'm obviously an employee of SMAC, so I should have put that out at the beginning of the episode. But
no, I think everybody knows that. Like I said, this is not boss and employee. This is
sure. But anyways, I do, John, give him his chance to respond.
Okay, I'll start out with the hiring of the town manager process. You know, one of the big things that we had done and that we did that really probably hasn't been done before is we set up a search committee. We hired a consultant, went out, did a nationwide search. We had candidates, final candidates was from Florida, Michael, who lived in Canton, and I forget where the third finalist came from.
Franklin, maybe?
I think he was in Franklin. Yeah, that's correct. Thank you, Jeff. So it was whittled down. We had, besides the consultant, there was a citizens group and department heads. And many of the people that are complaining about the town manager today were on the search committee and brought these recommendations forward. There was a mention that the previous interim town manager, Mr. Feaster, was added at the request of somebody. Actually, nobody ever contacted the search committee. They all worked independently, and it was felt that Joe deserved to be a final candidate. So there was nothing improper ever done. And again, obviously, whoever you're getting your information from, it's not firsthand.
I just said allegedly. That's why I said allegedly.
Well, that's.
But it's not firsthand.
And this is where you guys say, deal with the facts. You don't have any facts, but you're making accusations that improprieties were done, and there wasn't. As far as his Wareham, Michael's background down in Wareham, everything came out during the search. We all knew what Michael was up against, and it's the same thing I say today he's facing. A town manager has 5 bosses, 5 different ideas, 5 different approaches, and he had 2 selectmen, just like we do today, chasing him and trying to get rid of him and trying to make his life miserable because he wouldn't give in to the different ways. Michael, like I said, to his credit, has done a great job. He made a tough decision based on the facts that he had at the time, which is coming out. And if I get a chance to read this before the end of this, it would be great. As far as the building committee, the Board of Selectmen gave Michael the power and the authority to appoint the building committee.
Prior to me to being on the board, they gave him too much power.
It doesn't matter.
You're right, though. It's true, though. Yeah,
there was a vote of the Board of Selectmen to form a building committee and have the staff do it where it belongs, in my opinion. Staff, that's what we pay these people for. And the purchase of the Glen Echo and the Magna Farm was bought a long time ago.
I understand that.
So it wasn't when I was on the board.
No, but I understand it. Why
I know, but
we waste foolish money? No, okay, but
they need to know. I was not involved in that. Glen Echo, it was a vote at town meeting. As the chairman of the Board of Selectmen, yeah, I was involved in making sure that it was finalized. And right up to the minute, town council was in the registry of deeds, and we were having conversations on if everything was in line and everything was in order. But we answer to other people as well. And the town meeting approved the purchase, as well as the CPC committee expending the money. There's a whole process. It's not for the Board of Selectmen to interfere with the town meeting vote. Following it, those things. As far as the theater, what will the town get for their $500,000? Our downtown is in terrible shape. Theaters in general are well known to revitalize downtowns. We are not looking to open up a movie house. We are looking to restore the theater. We bought the original blueprints, restore the theater to its original design, and that's what the renderings represent. An active theater is going to be a make this a destination place. And it's not just for Stoughton residents. We just had a show that we did in the high school with Maureen Hancock. We had people from Rhode Island and Connecticut buy tickets to come to that show. That's what we're trying to do to the town Stoughton. And that's what Stoughton is how they're going to get paid back, the taxpayers. And you know, we're not spending any of the taxpayers' money. That money can't come to us unless the project is successful. As far as fixing up the owner's property, we have a 30-year lease with another 10-year option. Essentially, that building is tied up for 40 years with the nonprofit corporation. Always our goal is to purchase it anyways before any of this happens if we can. But the building's tied up for 40 years. We're not going anywhere. And if anybody has a 40-year lease, it's like owning it. As far as me being paid, I get paid nothing, David. It costs me money to be on these nonprofit boards, as well as it did cost me money to go to be a selectman.
Oh, that's true. That is true.
So, you know, anybody to insinuate that I'm making money on the theater, it costs me and my wife substantial money. We paid out of our pocket to start that nonprofit. I filed all the paperwork, and you know, we paid for everything. We've put in a lot of hours for the better of this town, and that's all we ever have done. So, you know, and again, people that want to talk about these things, you know, without any facts and think that me and my wife or anybody else is making money at this is ludicrous. So
there's just under 6 minutes left. Do we have enough time? I don't know how long the statement is. I haven't seen that prior, obviously. Is there enough to do that? And also a final question is just to kind of bring, there's obviously a lot more issues that can be, we haven't even skimmed the budget. There's a lot more that we could talk about. But what I'd like to do just before wrapping up is I think it's important to be able to discuss solutions and where, you know, briefly where each of you feel that amicable solution to what's going on right now, you know, can be found. So you can read the statement, and then I'd like to turn to you for solutions.
Yeah, that would be great. I appreciate it. And thank you, David, for allowing me to do this. The statement, I believe, is going to make its way to the public. It did make its way over to me, and it didn't come from the town manager, but it is written by the town manager. It was, I believe it was something that he sent out to his department heads. And it's in regard to the whole scenario of what transpired between him, the chief, and his decision to do an agreement with Deputy Chief Devine down to a patrolman. Paul Shastany has served the town of Stoughton with distinction. He has earned the compliments that are extended for the reform he brought to the Stoughton Police Department. Chief Shastany's primary goal upon receiving his appointment was to bring the department into the ranks of a professional police force that serves the public with integrity. I wish him a long and happy retirement. Along with the announcement of Chief Shastany's retirement, there have come commentaries about recent events in the role of the town manager in the management of departments. In Stoughton, there was a tradition of a very independent operation of various town departments. Among other problems, this led to significant financial exposure to the town concerning labor employment issues, inefficiencies and inaccuracies in budgeting, such as departments proposing budgets for personnel they did not have and could not account for, inefficiencies that cost the taxpayer dearly, and procurement practices that were in many cases violated the law. The management of town government was highly politicized. Therefore, I have an approach management of the town for all departments, including the police department, with purpose of promoting the department heads' ability to do their jobs in the areas of their responsibility, as well as possible in providing support in areas that are outside of their expertise and that have led to the sorts of problems I just described. With respect to the police department comments that have been attributed to the chief in the press are not accurate description of recent events. With respect to the situation involving former Deputy Chief Devine, it is not accurate that Chief Shastany was not involved in decisions that ultimately resolved in the discipline and demotion to patrolman that was recently announced. He was involved and has been fully aware early this past November that the civil service ultimately determined the former deputy had retained a right to appeal through civil service. He would not be terminated. We received confirmation in late January that civil service determined they had jurisdiction. It was also not accurate that Chief Shastany was not permitted to have contact with the town council, who was advising us in resolving the various issues presented by the situation. In fact, as town council at Copeland and Page explained to the chief, and the chief called him, I understood the chief accepted this explanation. Department heads and communities do not have independent access to town council. That requires authorization of the town manager or the mayor, as this is the case may be. Among other reasons, this approach helps control legal fees, which could spiral out of control. Chief Shastany was given immediate and unfiltered access to town council when this was requested. With respect to the decision concerning Officer Devine, I am not at liberty to disclose details of confidential personnel matters. What I can say is that my decision was made out of concern for the best interest of the entire community, and that all the chief's preferences were considered. I had concluded that it would have been in the best interest of the town to defer to Chief Shastany's preferred resolution to terminate Officer Devine, and that such a decision would have been both lawful and upheld in the event of a challenge. I would have done so. My conclusion was otherwise, and given the interest of the board and the public, without violating privacy of the employee, I cannot describe how this decision was, violating privacy rights of the employee, I can describe how this decision was arrived at. First, there was a response by the department head, the chief, upon reevaluation of the circumstances. Without consulting with either the Human Resource Department or the town manager, a decision was made by the chief to relieve the employee from duty. Changes were made in how the employee did his job, but he was neither suspended nor put on leave. Although I could have done so upon returning of the department head's decision on this point, I did not countermand the decision. That act alone, whether countermanded or allowed to continue, was set in stone and would affect the ultimate outcome in some way based on my experience having had a career in municipal management for more than 35 years. On this point, I also received advice of town council. Second, the town engaged the services of a retired state police captain to perform what would otherwise be called an internal affairs investigation. The clear direction of Chief Shastany was that he was to cooperate with the investigation, but given the nature of the investigation and the relationship between the chief and the deputy Chief Shastany was not to contact the investigator on his own or take any action with respect to the investigation that did not respond to the requests of the investigator. The investigator's report was received to me a day or two before I left to my visit my mother out of state in late June. I had reviewed that report and developed an approach to resolving the issue addressed by the report, and I instructed Chief Stastny that he was to do nothing, take no action, and have no contact with the investigator. My clear direction to Chief Stastny was that he and I would review the options and work to resolve the situation upon my return in 2 weeks. Without prior notice to me, in direct disobedience of my instructions, Chief Stastny drove to the investigator's house with the report to suggest changes to the report. Upon my return, the revised report was waiting for me. This action by Chief Stastny, in my opinion, had based on over 30 years of experience in dealing with these sorts of situations, seriously compromised the integrity of the report. The changes that the Chief Stastny requested to be made reflected comments that he had made concerning what he wanted the outcome to be. This compromised the integrity of the report because this act of Chief Stastny comprised the independence of the investigation. Third, Officer Devine's position with the Stoughton Police Department was protected by his status as civil service employee. Although the position of deputy chief is not civil service position, when he assumed the position, he took leave of absence from civil service appointed to the Stoughton Police Department.
John, can I get you just to summarize the last couple pages?
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't mean to put you on the spot.
I didn't realize it was that long. But so at the end, fourth, why the town manager was on vacation without notice in consultation with the town manager at the time, Chief Stastny unilaterally decided to place Deputy Chief Devine on paid absent leave. Not only was this in direct contrary to the instructions he was given, that it also impaired the town's ability to approach any discipline this employee because of the act could be. Fifth, the basic matter of the dealing with the complex system of the employee rights of civil service. The employee may be disciplined only once for the same infraction. Both actions taken by Chief Stagnone compromise the town's ability to make and enforce a decision on discipline in this case was further either different from or more than what the Chief Stagnone did on his own. With background upon the review, there's just a couple more pages.
Well, where does that come from?
It's the town manager.
And has that been made public?
It should be coming out public pretty soon, I believe.
So
it went to the department heads, is my understanding.
Okay.
So at the end,
Is that something the selectmen have received?
I haven't remember seeing it yet. I haven't read it to it, but that's why, how does John get it in the department heads? That's one thing, but how we fix the situation? I'm gonna tell you how
Well,
to
it's
fix
just
it.
let's.
there's a simple thing here. That can be to help to resolve some of this.
Because I think that's important. It's to come up with the final few minutes of the show, just to kind of what's a positive, amicable solution to the issue of the police department, the town manager, and what seems to be causing a divide between the two of you, between other residents in town.
Yeah. Well, I think if I had the time to read the rest of it, in essence, this is somewhere between the two stories is the truth. Selectman O'Regan gave me a copy of a letter that he had given to his board, and he's requested that an independent investigation be done. I think the Board of Selectmen, that would be the appropriate steps to find out what is true. Because if this is what's true, this will explain exactly why Michael, at the very end, cut Chief Stagnone out of the decision and made the decision himself. It's kind of concerning to see that there seems to be some insubordination going on here. If this was a criminal investigation and somebody manipulated the evidence, that's an improper, like the town manager's saying, there's some possible tainting of the evidence, let's put it that way, to get the outcome that he wanted. If this was a criminal case, isn't
that kind of ironic, though, given there's another situation at Town Hall that you could make the same argument for?
Which one is that?
What's going on with Cedar Hill?
You could.
I mean, I should say allegedly, but what you said, isn't that something that you could just as easily make that argument?
Well, if we have had time, I could get into that, but I can tell you that based on my conversations with the HR director and things, you could say that, because of the differences between the departments and things, that was a retaliation on the HR and management, and this is also tied to being a retaliation against them. But you got to remember, when he was the acting town manager at the time, Michael was out, there was a civil rights case against the town of Stoughton and the police department. And these other issues that were behind the scenes that the HR director was privy to, and he, being the highest ranking licensed person, basically overseeing it for the town at the time, has the power to investigate. He wasn't, in my view, in talking to him, and he wasn't trying to impede the investigation. He was trying to make sure that it was done fairly and accurately, and that other issues, because of the race of the people involved, weren't going to impact the outcome.
But in just short, though, your solution is you want an independent investigation and to find the truth where it lies between the chief's version and the town manager's version of what happened.
I think that the Board of Selectmen should do that, and they should do it, quickly. There was another thing is, David had mentioned that they took a vote not to accept the town manager's resignation.
The police chief.
Police chiefs.
Yep.
I take his resignation in a heartbeat, John.
Yeah. So, anybody that watches, the chairman has a lot of responsibilities, but the chief put in his papers to retire, not to resign. One problem with the motion. The second one is the chairman, again, like
Well,
I
they
said,
did actually, if I remember correctly, and I don't have the tape in front of me, but I believe they actually rejected his retirement, not
We
a
did.
resignation.
Well, I heard it was a resignation.
Okay.
And everybody
Retirement.
keeps saying it's a resignation,
Right.
but he retired. But the thing is, when you have things under citizens' comment and things that are on the agenda, you can't take votes. The Board of Selectmen was in complete violation of open meeting law when they took that vote. And the chairman is responsible for making sure that the board doesn't get in any trouble like that. And his opening statement.
He did call me out of order, but as a member of the board.
That's a different
yes,
motion,
but,
right.
But can I finish? Because I got to go.
Because I do want, before we go, I do want, you can respond, but I also want your solution. What's your way to do to make this situation,
all,
better?
What's going on with Robert Devine? I like Rob Devine, his family. I said all the events I did, Jeff, you filmed all my events. If it wasn't for Rob Devine, that night prayer would never happen, all that. So, and all my fears and everything else, I respect Rob Devine. I am neither, and I said it's not the town's business, what he did in his personal life is his personal business. Not mine, not anybody in this room, not anybody at home, not the Board of Selectmen, not newspapers. What he does in his personal life is his personal business. We have department heads. John is like I said, he's the boss of smacking the board. John's in charge of the board. We all have department heads and leaders to tell us to do. If we have a fire chief, a police chief, a superintendent of public works that see these guys' day-to-day operations, my opinion, and it's only my opinion, I think a town manager or mayor, how you want to do it, work together with the department heads to figure this thing out, not overpower the thing. And I'm going to say it again, there's certain special people on the Board of Selectmen. So I'm going to tell you how to fix this problem. It's time that residents of town, there's 35,000 residents, the 2,000 special people control everything. They come out, vote, they do everything. And like it says, John, kudos to you and your people because you guys are the smartest people.
I have no idea who my people are.
You know who the John people.
you-
Okay,
you
but
ju-
let
you
me
just-
phrase this.
Yeah, but you just heard
I did hear that,
the
but-
chief may have interfered with an investigation.
He might have, but let's check on this.
He
But
also was insubordinate, and there's a list of things that go to the integrity of his position and to the
But you know
outcome
what?
of this.
We're going to get to the truth of this. But
So-
the problem is now, and the biggest problem is here. It's not Devine, it's not the chief. It's the special people that control the meeting, control the finance committee, give all the money to the schools, and don't give a damn about the people. And that's how you fix it. So the people. This is my opinion, John. Allegedly
Yeah,
my opinion. And
yeah,
everybody's
okay.
entitled to their opinion. So what do I say? I say to the people of Stoughton, if you don't get involved now, to get in town meeting, finance committee, selectmen, school committee, whatever it is. If we don't, if these people don't come, the regular Joe Schmo, like myself, because that's who I am,
Yep.
if don't get involved, this town's gonna fall. I'm sorry. So you know what? It's time to change the town manager and the human resource department. They are very bad. They're very bad to be in this town. They're not the right people for this town.
So-
that's my opinion.
Yeah,
And everybody have their opinion.
So if this town manager is found to be, this is the report, and this is turned to be true, that the chief interfered and did all these things, that the town manager, made the decision based on the best interest of the town, you're still willing to say, you know what, he should go, because you know what, the police chief is right.
No, if he's right, all the power he's right. And I'm okay with that.
So we're supposed to get rid of a town manager who
But my
made the
problem is
toughest decision in his,
But the tough
for the
decision is
town.
when he tells the employees they can't talk to us. When employees tell us, I don't talk to you. You're just a selectman. They open our mail and everything else. He got the inmates are running the asylum, John. That's what it is.
I
can say
would
it.
disagree, because,
John-
selectmen shouldn't be in the town hall.
I don't go to the town hall.
Going around to all the departments or
But
whatever.
if I go
and
pay a
asking
water
them-
bill, or if I go do this, and I have questions, I want to know what's going on. People ask me questions, John. You were there. I get questions 24/7. And like it says, this guy's not giving me the answers. Like it says, you hired him, you're going to back your man up. And I respect you for that.
Well,
But
you know what?
The biggest thing is,
It's not it.
John,
the thing for me has always been, and I was wondering if I was being blinded by loyalty until I seen all this, because, like I said, it was a popularity contest, is what you guys ran in social media. You got everybody to come out. You got a no confidence vote.
Let me tell you something.
Let's pick on the.
I got to go get my kid
yeah.
to school, but I want to tell you something
Yeah.
right now. When I ran, I told the people, you're going to hear the truth, like it or not.
Yep.
I can't be bought. I won't be bought. I says, when I vote, it's the vote of my heart. It's not what's going to benefit me, what's going to benefit my family, what it's going to do to my political career. This is not about this. I do what's right for the town, and that's all there is to
And
it.
that's what Michael Hartman did.
Well-
Did the right thing for the town.
You think that, And you have your opinion, you're entitled to your opinion.
Okay, so-
But me, I don't agree with that.
I don't know why you would be afraid of doing an independent investigation.
I'm going to do an
based
independent, I don't care about an
and
investigation.
support it,
If I have to support that, I have no problem supporting it.
you know.
But when he comes guilty, I want people to say, listen, I was right.
You know, and
Jeff, thank you.
right,
Like
yes.
I said, I have to end this
All right,
because
so
well, can I just, you know, because everybody in here, you know, the police and the fire, there's 7 unions, 2 voted no confidence. You know, it's unfortunate that, like in the police thing here, as David mentioned, alleged interference. You know, when do we pick up somebody based on alleges if we're arresting somebody or whatever? The standards seem to have changed on whether it's fact or
but as Jeff,
fiction.
Quick thing, Jeff said, he made a big safe. The chief did make the mistake on Mr. Devine. What about Mr. Kelly? He was charged with a criminal offense.
You know how many charges were brought up against him and never made it? And this one's probably going to be, the lady who was charged, dismissed. When Mr. Kelly gets his time, I believe they're going to be dismissed. But think of how many, there was probably about a dozen charges they tried to bring against Mr. Kelly, and they've all been dropped at the court magistrate's level. And he just didn't know how to resolve this one because of the complexity of what is happening.
I'm neither judge or jury. Let the jury.
Well, I think it's fair to say at the end that we have there's 2 sides obviously in an issue which has become contentious in town, and there's a deference to the town manager's his view, and there's a deference to the police chief in his view. And I appreciate you watching the last 40 minutes or so just to hear these 2 different opinions. I want to thank David Spanky Sousa and John Stagnone for coming in and again just explaining where they stand on these issues. And thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.